what an incredible week it's been for Iraqi football. I'm delighted to be joined by Laith Al-Naimi from Soccer Iraq. Laith, how you doing?
Hassan, yeah, great, thanks. How are you, mate? It's great to be back.
I'm really well, thank you, man. I've been following your page and you're doing amazing things with your social media. A lot of respect. Thank you for coming back. It's been a while since we've spoken about Iraqi football. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
No, thanks for the kind words. Listen, I think I have to start off by giving a big shout out to my man Yaser, who works on Soccer Iraq alongside me. He's a wealth of Iraqi Premier League and national team knowledge, so when it comes to social media and Soccer Iraq, he really gets it. So first of all, if it wasn't for him, the page wouldn't be as successful as it is. But also well done to yourself. Your page is fantastic. Your exclusive interviews have been great. And you keep pushing and pushing for regular Iraqi football podcasts. So well done for that. The online community really owe you a lot, Hassan.
No, it's absolute pleasure, man. Again, we're going to touch upon this in a moment, but the joy that I saw after the Iran match, it makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, listen, I think in general when it comes to recording podcasts, if there's only a few listeners that enjoy the show, then that's really all that matters, because at the same time we're discussing such a historical period right now, and gaining that win against Iran, but there's so much more to look forward to, and we don't also want to get carried away with ourselves, but it's a good time to reflect and look ahead to what the future holds.
Definitely. I'm also delighted to be joined today by Reda, who's a football agent and analyst all the way from Sydney. Thank you so much for your time.
Hassan, thank you for your time. Also, it's my pleasure to be on your podcast.
No, the pleasure's all mine, genuinely, to have you guys both here. Let's jump right into the show today. We've got so much to discuss. It's been an incredible week for Iraqi football. So much has happened. Let's start by looking at the Iran game. If we look back at the last podcast, I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't really have much hope for the game. Others felt a bit more hopeful. How did you guys feel about that the Iraq-Iran game beforehand?
It's very interesting that you actually mentioned that. I actually didn't, and to be completely fair, I mean, I didn't have much of a hope until, I guess, after the 10th minute. And the reason for that is based on the performance with Iran. Or based on the Iranian performance is actually quite surprising. To see the level of what they played was really took me by surprise. I think that regardless of the performance and how we played and how they played, we did come away with the 3 points. In terms of an actual football match, I don't think it was the most entertaining when it comes to watching a proper football match. But regardless, we came away with the win. And that win was, of course, very meaningful for not only football fans or Iraqi football fans, but it was also meaningful for the country in general, just due to the political situation that's in the country. So that's my little twist on it. So it's quite surprising to see how Iran did turn out to be. But then again, I think credit to our boys, the way they performed, the way they played, even they kept fighting till the last minute. And it's actually funny when you saw Amjad before he took that corner, he actually had a little pray and came away with the win. So it was good to see in general.
I completely agree with you. I think this match in particular was something more than just football. If we're looking at the major games that as an Iraqi you'd want to win, number 1 Saudi, number 2 Iran, and we can try denying it, but those are both religious and politically motivated, and in this case it was political, because we've seen the protests, we've seen what's happening in Iraq, and obviously it's heartbreaking. But the game came at a perfect timing in terms of uniting the country against, like, what I would put in quotation marks, a common enemy, and it allowed us just to sit there and be unified against the opposition.
I have to agree. I think this is funny because it's a discussion I have with a lot of my friends here in Scotland, and we were having a chat beforehand about the international element to this podcast tonight. But honestly, over in Scotland, a lot of the fans here, they don't quite get the international game. They don't have the passion for it, and I think that sort of trickles its way down, and it goes to the players themselves, because you look at Iraq, you look at Ireland, you look at teams around the globe that, you know, the Italians, they wear their heart on the sleeves. They've got a real fire in their belly when they come up in the international scene. So the game against Iran just sort of, it typified, it was a proper passionate performance. It meant more, as you both have touched on, and it was just so sort of, you know, fitting that with all the protests going on, to win the game in that fashion, and for the players playing with a real hunger throughout the full 90 minutes. If it wasn't for that desire, I don't actually think we would have got the 3 points.
Leif, did you think we were going to get a win beforehand? What were your expectations going into that match?
To be honest, I really like Katanec. I'm actually a fan of him. I think he's doing very well. And what he's been sort of achieving so far as an Iraq manager is defensively setting us up well. You know, we go out and we dominate a lot of games. Okay, in the final third, we're maybe not the most creative. That may come down to, you know, playing with one up top and Mohammed. But at the same time, when you go in to a game and you set your team up so sort of strong, and have Rabin sitting behind Ahmed Ibrahim and just playing with you know, the best form of attack is defence. So having that solidity, I think there's always a chance in getting big victories. It looks like Bahrain, which we'll touch on later in the podcast, have been a bit of a struggle for Katanec. He's finding that test pretty difficult in breaking down. But with him in charge and the way he shapes us up, I feel like we can always snatch 3 points.
Okay, so if we look at what Reza just said, right? His opinion was that we're not going to get a win, but after 10 minutes, you started to feel a bit more hopeful. Do you feel that was more to do with Iran not performing, or Iraq performing really well during those first few minutes in the game?
I think there's a mix of both, to be honest. At the minute, Iran are struggling. Let's be honest, you know, they were at the World Cup. They've been one of the best teams in Asia, sadly, for a number of years now. And, you know, they've got their new manager in. Losing Carlos Queiroz was a massive loss. He was absolutely adored by their fans. So they're going through a transition period right now. And that's, you know, it's becoming... It's a bit of a benefit, let's say, to the rest of the group. Bahrain also got a good result against them, and I just feel that with that going on in the Iran camp, and then protests and the sort of extra motivation that our players were carrying that night, then no, there's really no surprise that we got the win. But what they have to do is build on that. You know, I spoke before when you introduced me how historic the win is. To be fair, when you look back in years to come, it will be a very memorable win for the whole support. I've not seen, you know, jubilation like that in Baghdad since the Asian Cup victory, because it's the nation coming together. Football once again uniting us all. So yeah, in that respect, fantastic. It's a historic victory. But for the team, I don't know, you know, you will get carried away, you'll get the flags out and run around the stadium and celebrate with your fans. I understand that, and maybe just for this occasion I'll allow it as a one-off, but to be honest, the next time I want to see celebrations like that is when we actually progress to the World Cup. Yeah,
I completely agree with you. Rilla, what do you think?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. I had the privilege of being Iraq versus Iran in the Asia Cup when we beat them in the quarterfinals to progress to the semis. That was another game that meant a lot to us. The 3-3 game, and that's actually still voted as one of the best games in the Asia Cup. And that was actually an amazing match, because some of the lead up and also what happened after the game was quite big. So essentially, look, they are... I would like to say a good rival we have with Iran in terms of on a football level, but also on a political level, like you both have touched on, the meaning and for a nation that I wouldn't say has been divided in recent years, but has been divided in the past. And to see everyone unite and coming out as one, lifting Iraqi flags in Sahat al-Tahrir, it means a lot to even see. As I mentioned, in terms of a football aspect, if you actually watch the game, it wasn't the most entertaining. The ball was bubbly, so it wasn't consistent. We weren't consistent at times. Iran wasn't consistent. But regardless of that, we leave that aside. The performance, I think we can excuse that. And without a shadow of a doubt, we look at the better aspect of it and say, you know what, the reason, one of the reasons why the Iraqi national team can unite a country is because we're a country that loves football. We're very passionate about football. And this is something that politicians, religious leaders, anyone really within Iraq can't do other than football. And that's the beauty of football. It speaks one language and it's united the whole country.
I completely agree with you. I think not only is Iraq a massive footballing nation, but I think importantly, I think in these troubled times, it's the only real outlet we have of happiness. So it kind of brings us all together as a nation, and we just wait. And I understand that there's this massive weight on the shoulders in terms of pressure for the players, but I think in the Iran game, that pressure pushed them towards that win. Now,
yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned pressure. I think it's not pressure with the boys that came out. I don't think they felt pressured in a way. I felt like they wanted to do something that was different. I think they have this expectation, and that's the difference between Iraqi players compared to other national team players. Is that yes, other teams might consider it as pressure, but these guys might consider it as an obligation,
like a responsibility
for them, a responsibility for them to perform. So I want to, if you know what I'm coming from with that aspect, yeah.
Well, football in generally has been a tool for many players over the years to celebrate and use the pitch as a platform to send out a message. So if you see over the past month, a number of the players were out protesting themselves.
Yeah, there was videos of Ali Adnan out, Safa out.
Ala Abbas, the hero. I think that in itself, it lets them go into the game thinking, okay, if we can score, if we can celebrate as one, we can put out a message to the world. And after getting the first goal, and obviously at the end, you've seen the masks, and even without the masks, they were all, using their hand to cover their face. And I think that in itself is one aspect that helped. It was a motivation, but at the same time, to be fair, put aside the protests, the boys got it bang on. Katanec got his tactics right. The substitute was once again a brilliant impact, and I feel that there's so much now to look forward to. Again, I'm very pro Katanec, but I just like how we stuck with him, because for our standards, 24 games or however long he's been in charge is a long time. So I think that we just need to be patient. We've got the Gulf Cup now. It's something else to look forward to. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but what I'm trying to say really is I'm hoping that this week is the start of big things ahead. But on the subject of Abbas, we often go on about Mohammed, and no wonder. He's one of the biggest talents in Asia. He's our poster boy at the minute. But I've always actually rated Abbas.
I absolutely love Abbas, and I fell in love with him. I fell in love with him when he came on against Iran a while back. I think we're talking about the Asian Cup in the group stages. It was 0-0, and he came on, and his header, if you guys remember this, came off the crossbar, and it was phenomenal. Yeah. And I've been monitoring him very closely since then, and I've rated the guy so highly. But unfortunately for him, he's playing at a time where Mimi is leading the line, and he's the star of the show, and he's a phenomenal talent. We'll talk about Mimi in a bit.
Yeah, the organisation of our play at the minute, to Alat's disappointment will lead to one player being up front, which I completely understand. Yeah. He just needs to bide his time. and he is coming on and being not just against Iran in this outing, but in general.
Yeah.
For someone of his height, he really knows how to jump.
Definitely.
In the air, he's a presence.
He is, and I think his haircut helps him because it's 8 inches tall.
Yeah, that's interesting. Look, for once, I think I'd like to say that the back three has actually suited us.
So this is what I wanted to lead on to. So I'm glad you mentioned it. What do you think of the three trio defense of Rebin, Saad, and Ahmed Ibrahim?
I think it's worked out. If you can see, based on our game against Iran and also against Bahrain, is that teams really struggled to break us down. And if you actually saw, a lot of teams, when they tried to play off the counter, were very quick to win the ball again. So in counter-attacks, when Bahrain tried to counter, or even Iran, we were quick to close them down. So it looks like it has worked out. And in between the three partnership, in between Rabin, Ahmed Ibrahim, and also Saad, is that it is actually working. And that's one of the main things that, we've tried it in the past. And I do remember some other coaches that did try to play with the back three, and it didn't really work out. But with this three-back partnership, it's really worked out. And you can see as well when you play with the wing backs, and you're also playing with, you might call them your two number 10s, so in behind your strikers, but they're also playing out wide. I think it's really fitted us quite well. The only one aspect I would like to criticise is that we're playing with 1-6, so one defensive midfielder, which might either be Safar or Amjad at times, and that can be quite dangerous. So when we're going to be versing teams, and maybe that's down the track in the long term when we verse teams against, the Japanese, etc., who like to play the balls through the middle, I think that's when we're going to start to struggle. So maybe playing with another number 6 is quite a good idea. You both touched on Ala Abbas. I would really like to see Ala and Mohammed play together. But unfortunately for that, it's very rare that you play with two strikers. But at the same time, can one of them play as a number 10 or a second striker? Possibly not. I think because both of them like to play that in that high line, especially Mohammed. So that's my touch on it, and that's my touch on, I guess, the first 11.
I think you're right. I'd like to see that myself, actually. It's very obviously difficult in competitive matches to change up a sort of winning system. That's probably the issue that we have at the minute. But defensively, I've spoken highly of us. When you watch the two games back, you can see the brilliance of Rabin and Ahmed Ibrahim. They have a great understanding. They bounce off each other really well. And you'll notice that Rabin sort of sits, doesn't he? He sort of patrols in front of the keeper and he sweeps everything up, whilst Ibrahim is a bit more aggressive.
Yeah. And
to be fair, he is a unit. And very experienced, so Rabin will be learning a lot from him. And if you think about it, you don't really, in all the games that Rabin's played in, I've not noticed him in many of the matches. And then that's really the sign of a good defender, isn't it? Yeah,
so somebody that's calm on the ball, somebody that just deals with the situation with ease, without panicking and without too much headache. I think what we're starting to see there is a very, very contrasting partnership. It reminds me a little bit of Rio Ferdinand and Vidic, where one plays the aggressive, winning the headers, etc. The other one's kind of cleaning any loose balls, doing things without panicking and I think it's really working well. But I think the problem is when we look at the Bahrain game and you're still playing a back three. Now, I think the defenders did excellently during the Bahrain game as well, and I think that was the real reason why we got 4 points out of 6 over those two fixtures, that we've diverted to a back 5. Because I think with those three in centre back, it also allows Dhurgham and Ala Amhawi, Ala especially, I think, had a very good game, to kind of push forward and stretch the game and offer a kind of alternative attacking point. So you have those 5 there, and it's a very solid system. The problem for me is that we have so many players playing in defence that in the midfield we look short of creativity and bodies.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that when it comes to teams like Japan, we might need another defensive or holding midfielder there. That's one thing. But I think the other thing is when we play a team like Bahrain, who are going to sit back, who aren't going to attack us the way Iran were trying to, you're short in the middle and you're short of that quality of somebody who can try to break their defensive line, right?
Yeah, the whole concept of playing essentially with a back three is that you're only going to play with two two wing backs, or two wingers in general, or fullbacks if you like to call them. So the one thing I noticed is that Hammam was also playing out wide, and so was Bashar was playing. Bashar not as much as Hammam.
Yeah.
I think Hammam didn't really understand the system where, when you're playing with that such formation, is that you need to really tuck in. So you allow that space for your wide players, for your fullbacks to. So in attack they're transitioning forward, and in defence they're running back. I think in some cases where Hammam was left really out wide, I don't think he really understood the system, and that's where he should be tucking in, similar to what Bashar did at times. But yeah, you're right. What we are missing within that formation, and I think that's the key, is a really good number 10. Someone that can really pick up the ball, is able to turn, is able to play the ball to feet, is able to play balls in behind. And that's what we're really missing.
You're saying that, and we have the perfect player to do that job, and it's killing me that he's not there. And that player is Jiloan.
Right, and I think that's correct. And I think we're all thinking the same here, and probably a lot of people that are going to be listening to us are also going to be thinking that, and that's correct. Jiloan would be the perfect player to fit into that role. Of course, it will take him time to understand how Iraqis tend to think in terms of football, but at the same time, he would be a good solution for that. And I also think even Justin involving him in that same structure, because you need to remember, Justin is a player that likes to play out wide, but he's someone that loves playing in the middle. So he loves tacking in. If you notice, Justin, within his football clubs, or even when he was playing with Iraq, he tucks in. He loves turning. He loves running through the middle. He would be someone that's perfect within that certain setup. So I think those two players would be vitally important if we are looking for at least the next step in terms of, achieving our next goals of progressing to the World Cup. I think those two players are our keys.
We didn't really have much trickery. We didn't have, we did have the energy, but there was no real sort of that final pass. There wasn't that drive towards goal that Justin as well can offer. So for me, Justin would have been a brilliant option to have against Bahrain, but so would have Hussein Ali. The frustration I have with Justin is when it comes to playing in the MLS, we've seen it with Columbus and Atlanta as well, he can produce moments of magic, and it's maybe the position he's playing. When he's playing with Iraqi, he still, to me, looks one of our more dangerous players, but I still feel like we can get a bit more out of him. And if it means changing and switching up his role and position within the team, then so be it. But, yeah, you're both right. We definitely lack that sort of cam, that number 10.
Yeah, I think it's a few areas. Number one, what Jiloan offers is creativity on the ball, when to pass it, how to break that organised defence, because that's what Bahrain did. I think Bahrain I said Katanec was trying to play for a draw. I think it's harsh a little bit to say that. I think Bahrain were really the team that were playing for a draw. Katanec slightly wanted to win, but I would have taken a draw, and I kind of understand that. But when you play against a team like Bahrain that is going to play a block of, let's say, 6 defenders, right? Or 6 players defending in their own half, you need a player with the technique to find that little dink with a pass or play that through ball. And I don't think we had that in the squad. You had, for example, Bashar, and I think he had a really good game, but he's the only one that could really create a chance for you. Hammam, he's not going to create anything for you, let's be honest. Safar's a holding midfielder, and I think he's a very good player, but he's not a player that's going to create chances for you. You had Ibrahim Bayesh, who I've had good things about. I've not really been impressed myself when I've watched him, and he came off at half-time anyway. So I don't know. I think in that attacking third, there's a lot of questions yet to be answered for Iraq.
I actually kind of disagree with you when you mentioned that we were looking for a draw. I actually completely disagree, because if you look at the second half, I think we were the more dominant team.
I think we were more dominant. I'm not denying this. I think we were trying to get the win, but it wasn't all out trying to get for a win. I think Katanec saw an opportunity to win the game, but I think he would have been very happy with the result of a draw and taking a point. Again, which I understand. It's not a criticism of him. I just think that was our approach.
We struggle when we come up against teams that park the bus as well.
Yeah.
So he was complimentary of Bahrain in his media conference after the match because of their defensiveness. But if you know that a team are going to come out and look for a draw, you need to sort of prepare and expect that. So maybe you do go with the two up top from the off.
So this is the thing, right? Ala Abbas, his runs are excellent, and he's a pacey player who's difficult to mark because he's always playing on the shoulder of the defender. You don't know if he's going to slip right, he's going to slip left, and that's how he manages to get on the end of so many passes and chances. But his role or cameo came with 15 minutes to go. It's hard to expect that from a player. If you would have given him 30 minutes, would we have won? Well, maybe we'd have a better chance of winning than giving him 15 minutes. Having said that, though, even with those 15 minutes, he hit the post and he came the closest to all the players in terms of making a chance or making a goal for the Iraqi team. And it goes back to what I said earlier about Ala Mhawi being able to attack confidently with the three centre-backs. With the three centre-backs being firm and playing their role properly, it allows Ala and Dhurgham to attack. Ala bombed down, and I have to say the last two games he's been exceptional. And his pass, I think it was Amjad who cut it back. Amjad, I have to say, he had two very good games as well relative to what I would expect him to normally perform. And he nearly set us up for the winner. It came back and it was a good finish. I think he should have scored, but it is what it is. You know, in football at that level, it's all tight margins. And I think overall, a 0-0 draw, 1 point each. It's a fair result and a fair reflection on how both teams performed and how much they wanted to win.
We're still sitting top of the group. It's a strong position to be in. There's a lot of nerves surrounding the game against Iran away from home, understandably. But when you hear Katanec, you know, for a manager to come out afterwards and say, our aim is to win the rest of our matches because we want to top this group. He wants to win them all. It's a very positive way to look at it. Okay, publicly he's not going to come out and say anything other, but I do believe him.
The Iraq are in a really good spot because if we beat Hong Kong and Cambodia, which we are expected to do, and if we don't win those two games, we don't deserve to qualify to the next round anyway. So if we win those two games, we will still qualify on the basis of we're one of the best teams to come second in the whole tournament. Ideally, we do want to come first because it will give us an easier draw because of the way the teams will be seeded in the next round. But for Iran to actually win the group, they need to win 4 games. And I think that's not an easy feat. Then the next round, they're going to be playing Hong Kong and Cambodia. You'd expect them to win those games. But in the final round, and if they still have the same manager there, they're going to have to play Bahrain and then Iraq in a matter of days.
Yeah.
And I could see them dropping points. I can see them dropping points somewhere there. And
I can too. It's a big ask. It's far too big an ask, I think. And they were handed a lifeline in a way when we got the draw there against Bahrain, but I still think it's, even for Iran, it's obviously high standards, particularly in the past. I think it's just far too big an ask for them to top the group. They might finish second. I'm just confident, you know, I can see us progressing ideally first, and, you know, of course, as an Iraqi, you want to finish top, but it will stand us in good stead going into the next round and, you know, achieving ultimately our biggest goal.
Do you think it's realistic to expect Iraq to qualify for Qatar 2022?
We have to step it up again, I think, in the next round if we qualify, because the reality is South Korea, Australia, Japan, Iran, you know, these are the teams that have been in Qatar now, Asian champions, we have to mention them. These are the teams that are dominating the continent, and for us to be sitting at the World Cup table, we need to prove that we are better than these teams. So we've got to beat the best, don't we? And the only way to do that is to progress to the next round and show how good we can be.
Yeah, I agree with Leif to a lot of that. We need to remember we're going to be in a group of 5, I believe, 2 groups of 5. So that does mean if we need to qualify, because the 2 spots are automatic qualification, I believe it's usually 3 versus 3. So what that means is that we do need to beat some of the big dogs in Asia, which means we need to probably have a win against Australia. We need to beat probably Japan, South Korea. So some of these big powerhouses in Asia, Saudi, Qatar, of course, won't be in the next qualifiers. We touched on that earlier. So these countries are the ones where we need to really get the 3 points. So, yes, we do need to step it up to the next level. So right now, we're in a comfortable position. We're on 11 points out of 15, which means we're only down by 4 points. And that could have been, it's 2 points against Bahrain, which if we won, that means would have been, 5 from 5?
Yeah.
Or something like that. So essentially, look, the next round, and we're talking, about next year is when those qualifiers will start. But essentially, we're going to be coming up against stronger national teams, and they're going to be just as hungry. We need to remember Australia's got a whole new squad. They've got a whole new coach. They're going to come out much stronger. They're playing a different formation. They're preparing quite well. Same thing with Japan. They've got a new generation that's come through. The generation of Honda and Okazaki, etc. They're all long gone. Same thing with South Korea as well. And they've proven that they're a strong national team just by looking at them in the Asia Cup. They've been to 2 grand finals in the Asia Cup. So that just goes to show that we need to step it up to the next level.
All right. So next 3 games, realistically, what do you think the results are going to be?
It's a hard one, isn't it? Of course, we're hopeful. I mean, personally, for me, hopeful that we're going to get the 3 points against Hong Kong and Cambodia. There's no doubt that we should lose points to either national teams. One, we're going to be playing at home against Hong Kong, which is going to be on an artificial pitch, but we played against Cambodia on an artificial pitch. The second game against Cambodia,
I think, sorry, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Hong Kong game is going to be away and Cambodia is going to be at home.
Yes, sorry, you're right. So... yeah, so that's right. We're going to be playing in Hong Kong on artificial turf, and then we'll go to Cambodia at home. So those games, hopefully, with 6 points. The game against Iran is going to be quite difficult because that's going to be our last game, if I'm not mistaken. And the issue with that is you don't know what Iran's going to be on that day. Maybe they need those 3 points to qualify. So it's going to be a tough one, but hopefully, again, that we come up with a win. Of course, playing against Iran and possibly Azad, it's going to be a full-out stadium, and that stadium takes about 100,000 people, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So, if we come up against a draw with Iran at home, I would really consider that as a win.
You would take that, absolutely.
I'll take a draw.
Yeah.
I mean, Hong Kong, we're in an excellent position when you look at it. Hong Kong away, in terms of difficulty, it's just the travel, but, for us, Hassan, in the UK, it sounds like it's a million miles away, but to be fair, it's 7 hours from
Yeah, and it's not just that. The other thing is that Hong Kong game is the only one we play in the next round. So I don't think travel's even too much of an issue because it's not like we have to go somewhere else and play somewhere else. It's just we go to Hong Kong, we play that game, and it's over.
So that's it. So if we can get the win there, and if we don't beat Cambodia at home, then come on. That's, of course, not up to our standards. So if we can just get the next 2 wins, then that should do us. That will do us.
Okay, so I want to move on to Katanec, right? Laith, I know you're a big fan of him. I'm somewhere in the middle because I'm undecided. I think, given where we are as a team in the fairly difficult group with Bahrain and Iran, we're in a very good spot. And that probably wouldn't happen under a different manager, let's be honest. Especially, God forbid, if we had an Iraqi manager. Okay? But there is still a lot of question marks around Katanec for me. And one of them, I'm hoping one of you guys could explain it to me. One of the question marks that I have is that for some reason, he keeps playing Mohammed Hameed in goal. Guys, I can't make sense of it, so I'm going to hand this over to one of you two to explain this to the fans and the listeners. Why does he keep picking that guy?
We were talking about before the podcast over WhatsApp a few days ago was the incident that led him to being substituted.
Yeah. So this is just to give some context.
Yeah.
He dived from a free kick. He hit the post. It went to half time. Then the match restarted, and within a couple of minutes, he was rolling around pretending to be injured. Yeah. So that's the situation we're referring to here.
this is what really it bugs me, to be honest, because I know players in the Middle East are guilty of it. Right?
Yeah, of diving around and tending to be injured.
Say that again?
So of diving around, tending to be injured.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of that in the Iran game. Iran, their players were swimming. They weren't even playing football.
But all of us do it, we are guilty of it as well. And I personally think it's embarrassing, particularly when you're on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
The ridiculous dramatics and the rolling about. So for me, okay, I'm going to say it, I think Hameed bottled it.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you. I think Hameed wasn't actually injured. I think after that incident in the first half where Rebin was leaving the ball, the long ball, there was a long pass made. Rebin left it for Hameed, who would have called for it, and the ball just bounced over Hameed's head. Somehow it went outside and not into his own net. And I think after that incident, he bottled it. He just didn't want to be on that football pitch.
Look, I know Jalal Hassan has been criticised in the past, and at the minute, to be fair, when it comes to dealing with crosses and set pieces, right? But the reality is, he's a lot more assured than any other goalkeeper in the first team right now. He's much more experienced. If you're asking me who I would start as my number one between Jalal and Mohammed, it'd be Jalal.
There's a few things, I just want to touch on. Look, if I was Katanec, and Mohammed Hameed did do exactly what he did, I would have absolutely lost the plot. For many reasons. If you're injured, as a player, you've got a responsibility to let the coaching staff know that you're not ready. Considering that you have 15 minutes at half time, okay?
Yeah.
To literally prepare yourself, put your hand up and say, look, I'm injured. Within those 15 minutes, they would have had either Jalal or they would have had Fahad warming up on the pitch. The goalkeeper doesn't need to come into the dressing room.
Yeah.
Okay? They would have had him warming up with those 15 minutes solid to make that substitution. I think it's immature from Hameed. I think it's unprofessional in many regards to come off in the 46th minute, straight after half-time, losing a substitute. I think it's very unprofessional from him. I don't think he's the right choice for us. He's made so many mistakes, and unfortunately, it is the same mistakes over and over again, where the ball's going under his feet. Every
over
time
his
he's
head.
got the ball over his head, when he's got the ball and the players pass it to his feet, he's unsure, he's unstable. Yeah. You can tell that he's very unconfident when he has the ball at his feet. I would highly recommend that our best goalkeeper at this present moment is Fahad, for many reasons. I like Jalal, and Jalal's a very, very good guy, and I've met him many times, and we have communicated in the past. But I genuinely think that it's now time for Fahad to at least have his go. Hopefully in this Khadija Cup that he does get his opportunity, because if you watch him, and I haven't really watched him in the Iraqi league, and that's the league that I really choose to avoid and not watch. But from what I've been hearing is that, he's the main goalkeeper at Warjawi, and they're one of the strongest teams within Iraq. So there's a reason why he's there, and I think he well deserves his opportunity now. He is young, and I think that, the two goalkeepers have made their mistakes in the past, and I just don't think we're in a position right now, especially when trying to build towards the World Cup. We're not in a position right now to be making any errors. Yeah. I genuinely think that Katanec needs to fix that. If we're going to go back onto your point, what I personally think about Katanec, I've still got a big question mark over him.
Yeah.
Many reasons. I think one of it is his inconsistency. I think now he's starting to find his feet in terms of playing with a back three. I think it's kind of suited us. But how long is that going to suit us is a big question as well. So there's a few things around Katanec that I'm quite unsure about. His player selections, the way he tends to treat his coaching staff, and also some of the players, I don't think is the best way. Again, there's a lot of question marks around him. But 24 losses out of 20 games is not a bad result if you think about it in terms of international matches. Or even within leagues, you look at the English Premier League. If you've lost 4 games out of 20, that means you're probably in around the top 6 or top 8.
24, 24.
Yeah. So
that's championship winning form, to be fair.
That's correct. So his results are okay. I think within the Asia Cup, people were complaining why we didn't beat Qatar, but then again, they were the champions. They beat some of the biggest teams. They beat Saudi, they beat Iran, they beat South Korea in the grand final. I don't know if they versed Japan or not. I can't remember. I don't think they did. But I don't complain about that because generally Qatar ended up winning the World Cup. So looking at results, I think it's okay. I think content-wise, I think he's doing pretty well. But in terms of the other factors, and that's what really builds a World Cup winning team. Oh, sorry, not World Cup winning team, World Cup qualifying team, is consistency. Is knowing what your identity is. Maybe now he's starting to find that, and he's starting to find his feet. But it's just a matter of time,
When you promote Ali Kadham, is you have Fahad, you have Ali, you have Jalal. The amount of pressure there on someone like Mohammed, who, look, he's played a number of matches, he has dealt with it, but you're now competing with other good quality goalkeepers on a regular basis. Then the Katanec and the coaching staff and the goalkeeping coach will have a big decision to make. And Fahad Darib, it's a shame, we've only seen, 45 minutes of him?
Yeah.
He only played against Urdun and Basra in a friendly, so we've not really had the chance to properly assess his performances. So I think that position for me needs, a little bit of thinking. The antics, the rolling about, and the dramas that we always have in goals. We had it with Noor Sabri, and I know he's highly rated and a legend of the game and loved, but my God, he would do that so much.
Every corner kick, Noor Sabri, you have to take into account there's going to be 5 minutes of him rolling on the floor.
And that's probably who Mohammed Hameed is looking up to.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was a trend he started.
So let's see who Katanec sticks with in the next round and in the Gulf Cup, but I would be surprised if it was still Mohammed.
So this is the thing, right? This is now the time to really try out Jalal, give him a run for his money. I know Jalal was kind of at fault for the goal we conceded against Bahrain, but the mistakes Jalal makes are nowhere near the caliber that Hameed makes regularly. And I think this feeds into the whole performance of the team. When you have a goalkeeper, like we mentioned earlier, Hameed is constantly shook. He's constantly afraid. And that in itself leads to him making mistakes. And when he's always looking like he's going to make a mistake, it brings the worst out of the defenders. So, players like Rebin, players like Ahmed Ibrahim, players like Saad Natiq and Ala, when they have a goalkeeper there that's like terrified of being in goal, it draws out mistakes from the defenders. And if the defenders make mistakes, the midfielders are and the strikers, and it brings the whole quality of the team down. And it's no surprise that once Hameed went off against Iran, the team looked so much better. The defence relaxed. It allowed the two fullbacks to push forward. And that's, again, I keep coming back to Ala Mhawi and why he had a very good game. It's because the defence were there and he had the opportunity to run forward, stretch the game, create chances for the attack. And the defence being firm, solid, it allows the midfield to play their game naturally. They're not worried about losing the ball and conceding. If you look at the Iraqi team before Katanec came, every single time we'd lose the ball and the opposition would attack us, the team just looked stretched. And every single time they attacked us, it looked like we're going to concede. So, fair play to Katanec. We have a kind of a firm midfield where when we lose the ball, there's a block of players that they're in the right position at the right time to intercept it. It's very rare that we're overrun in midfield. But I think going forward, there's still that question mark for me in terms of why is he not bringing in Jiloan? How is he going to bring back, and is he going to bring back Justin and Ahmed Yasin? How is he going to fit them into this team? I'm a big fan of Safa. I'm a big fan of Bashar. I think, look, I criticise Amjad, but I think he has a role to play in certain games. But he's not a starter for me. He doesn't offer much besides energy.
My insight on that and my view on it, and people can think whatever they want to think, but I genuinely believe this, is that you can fit Justin and Jiloan within that squad. I definitely think with that for specific formation, that Justin can play in a role where what Hammam's playing at the moment. And then again, I'll mention it again. When you're playing with wing backs, or full backs, you don't need to play with another player that really plays out wide. You need support through that midfield, and Justin's a perfect candidate for that. Someone that can tuck in and play through the middle, can play balls into your number 9, so your striker. Same thing with Jiloan. Jiloan's a perfect person to play within this formation. look, if I'm going to give complete credit, Amjad did play okay. He's quite an aggressive player. He does tend to make the wrong mistakes at times and make some stupid tackles. Gets himself yellow cards at unnecessary moments. But I think just Jiloan would be a perfect scenario to be playing him behind Mohammed. And then you've got that connection. And even again, I'll go back to playing with those fullbacks. So when you're playing with fullbacks, and a lot of teams, you look at some of the Chelsea, you look at the Chelsea team and why they were successful playing with the back three, and you look at some Italian teams, they don't necessarily play with defenders. So you need to remember that fullback position requires you to be strong in attack and strong defensively. I don't think Ala is perfect for that scenario, and we tend to see that sometimes he wasn't playing as high as he could have been playing. And possibly Ahmed Yasin can fit into that role if I'm not going to be, unbiased in that regard. But he's someone that possibly can play there, and I say possibly because he might have potential to play in that right wing role.
I think he's got the tactical prowess to do so.
That's correct. Yeah,
and the fitness.
Since his experience in Europe, he's got the fitness to be running up and down. I don't think Ala is suited for that role. I think that's a position we've actually been struggling for a long time. I've always said if Dargham and Ali Adnan weren't both left footers and one of them was a right foot, I think we'd have a decent national team.
Yeah.
Especially if it filled in within that role. So it's a possibility that you can even fit Ahmed Yasin into the team. So those are three plays where you can actually fit them within that structure, and I think would be a completely different team.
Yeah.
Adding Yaser Kasim would be another story. Adding Yaser Kasim right next to Safa Hadi, see you later. I think we've got a very strong national team. And then
there's a few points you made there that are interesting. Like Dorgham as a right footer, in a parallel world, that would have been frightening at the back, having Ali and Dorgham as wing backs. I never thought of it like that. And also, you spoke about 5 minutes ago, saying if Katanec can find a style which he has and get a consistency out of the team, then it might not be the most attractive football, but these results will lead us to just continue on winning, which is, I suppose, important, like the old Mourinho that we used to love and hate. So if it was up to me, I would probably give Hammam a rest. He's another player that didn't really live up to his hype a number of years ago, but Hassan, you made a good point in one of your tweets a couple of days ago. Actually, I was laughing at it because it just sums up Hammam. He plays like he's got 3 lungs at times. He puts in all the work rate that he can, but after winning the ball back, he'll just give it away. Yeah,
so this is against Bahrain, where Bahrain tried to break, and fair play to Hammam. He sprinted for like 40 yards, right? Won the ball with an excellent tackle, and I was like, okay, yes, Hammam, well done. And then literally the first thing he does is just pass it straight back to the Bahraini player. And it's that kind of decision making that drives me crazy, because you could run all you want, but if you're going to make a mistake like that, then I'm sorry, you shouldn't be in the national team.
That's the quality that's probably lacking, when you play in the national team and you're running down the wing, you've got a decision to make. A quality footballer would know exactly where he wants to put it, like De Bruyne, one of the world's best. We, of course, aren't blessed with that talent, and I'm not going to be too critical, but we do find ourselves in a position where we just hit and hope. There are better options. Yaser Kasim.
So this is where I wanted to lead the conversation, and I'm glad both of you mentioned it. Now, I think it was 2 days ago, Yaser Kasim's club in Sweden, they released him. There was a mutual agreement to terminate his contract, and he's a free agent now. And I spoke to Yaser about an hour ago, and he told me he's looking for a club and he's hopeful that something big is going to happen. The question, I'm not sure where I'm actually going with this, to be fair. Can Yaser Kasim make his way back into the national team? Where do you see him playing, etc.?
Any professional football player has to perform well with their club to earn a call-up to the national team. You can't just because you've had a good history, or when you played in the Asian Cup and made your breakthrough internationally, you can't always expect to sort of fall back on that and be in the fold. I think you actually need to go and sort out I don't know Yaser very well. I don't know him at all, actually. I rated him. Anytime I seen him playing internationally, I thought he was superb. But the past few years, I don't know what's happened in Sweden. No idea where it went wrong with Swindon, where he was there for a number of years. But the fans started to turn against him. They were talking about his attitude being wrong from what I read. I'm not too sure. But I think Yaser just needs to go away right now. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe he needs to use this time to speak with his loved ones, his agent, those close to him, think about his next move. And if he gets back working hard, then of course we've got a player. How old is he? 27, 28?
I think he's top 28, yeah.
Yeah, we've still got a player in our hands. But I mean, right now, if he gets called up, I don't think that's the right decision. He doesn't deserve it at the minute, and it's
interesting.
A bit harsh, but he just needs to get his club football sort of sorted out first.
Where can you see him going in the future?
I think he needs to go back to either England, or I've heard a number of times he's been linked with a move to the Middle East. And I think once you make your international debut with Iraqi and put in a couple of fine performances, then scouts are there in Asia. They'll be after you. Maybe he needs to do that. Does he go to Bali like Burwa? I don't think so. I don't think that's a wise decision, going to the Far East. It's never really helped progress players to the national team. I think if he's serious and he wants to compete again at a very high level, he needs to go to a strong league. But if not, even back to the Middle East, because if he just gets into that sort of environment, back into playing, in that climate, he'll eventually find himself in the setup. He just can't stop here. He's still too young for that. And I really hope, and it's down to him, it's in his hands, that we haven't seen the best of him.
Reda, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Yaser a couple of days back, actually. So I've known Yaser for some time, probably nearly 5 or 6 years now. So we still keep in touch. So it's interesting you mentioned in terms of his club football. And that's where it goes to show in comparison where you need to be performing in your club to get selected for the national team. That happens in every other country besides Iraq. You got to look at some of the national team players that are called up. From what I hear is that with their clubs, they're absolutely terrible. And they're being called up. I'm talking players that play within the Iraqi league. One thing with Yaser, which I really liked, was that he was okay with the fact that he put his hand up and said, I'm not ready to play national team. So he's fully aware of when he's ready. He's a professional player and understands what's required from him to reach national team football and performance. He knows what's expected from him. He knows what the fans love about him. He knows all these things. I think he's a player that would fit perfectly with Safar Hadi. I think perfectly. Safar is a young and upcoming player. Likes to play balls in between lines, etc. Yaser is very good with breaking down teams in terms of defensive duties. He also sometimes likes to take the ball and go forward with it at times. But he's big potential. He's 28 years of age. So he's got a lot of potential. He had a pretty good performance. So you need to remember that before he joined Rebro, or however you pronounce it in the Swedish language, was that they weren't doing very well. And when he came in, he fixed the change rooms up. He done a lot of things. So he's a player with a lot of potential, and he's someone that can really lift the players, especially players like Safar Hadi. He would really look up to someone like Yaser. So in terms of Yaser's next step with club football, I think Europe would be an option for him. Of course, countries like Indonesia, etc., is something that's off his mind, from what I heard. Of course, I'm not someone that's speaking on his behalf, but I know things that wouldn't really attract him. But maybe a league within Asia, whether that's Middle East, Australia, countries like that might be able to attract him and bring him over and get him to his best ability. But I think it's just a matter of time with him, just a matter of patience. I think things will come along, and when it does come along, I think we'll see the fruits of it. Yeah,
I completely agree. And look, fans could say what they want about Yaser over the last few years, but every time I've spoken to him recently, he seems very very firm-footed. He seems clued on, and he's taking his football seriously, which I love. He played 12 games in his team for Örebro in Sweden, and recently I asked him, I told him, listen, when are you going to come back to social media? And his answer told me a lot about his character. He was like, do you know what? Like, I just want to focus on football now, and I'm not too fussed about social media. I don't want to be there. And I respect that tremendously, because it shows that he wants to find his form again. He wants to come back to that Yaser Kasim we saw in the Asian Cup 2015. Granted, that was nearly 4 or 5 years ago, but he's not a young player, but he's still, like, he's not in the twilight of his career. He's not 34, and I think, and I hope and I pray that we will see him back at the national team. To have Yaser there as an option, alongside a midfield of Safar, alongside somebody like Bashar, Osama Rashid, Jiloan, I think there's so much potential there in terms of players that Iraq can choose from. But it's up to the FA to remove this quote on expat players, with limiting the manager to only 4, and it's up to the manager as well to stand up and defend these expats and actually pick them. So, I mean, if we are going to qualify for the World Cup, we need our best players there to beat, let's say, a group of Japan, Australia, Iran and Qatar, or whoever we get if we qualify to the next round. You need your best players there. You're not going to win those games realistically with the likes of Humam and Amjad leading your team. You might get them to beat Iran occasionally, but Iran is the one game in the current group where we can throw everything at it. In the next round, it's not like that, because every single game's like that. Every single game you play is going to be a must-win. And that's where you see much more the importance of quality and experience and tactical prowess. And unfortunately, players like Humam just don't offer that. That's where we need to start bringing in players like Justin. And, you know, I don't say this because they're expats. I say this because they're our best players. We need them in the team. And with this cap on the expat players, we're not going to progress. It's as simple as that. Let's move on, because this leads us on to the future of Iraqi football. Next week we start the Gulf Cup. 8 teams. It was gonna be what, 6 teams initially. Now it's 8 teams because UAE and Saudi Arabia want to take part. It's gonna be held in Qatar, and we've been allocated in Group A. So the first opener of the game is gonna be Qatar Iraq. Then, if I'm not mistaken, we'll play the UAE, and then the final team in our group is Yemen. How do you guys see that match, or those 3 matches progressing?
It's another massive occasion, Hassan, I must say. And again, it's not a criticism anyone here or the expats, but I don't think some realise just how much this cup means to a lot of the players outside, a lot of the players within Iraq that have been born and raised there. Because let's be honest, it's a battle of the bragging rights. It's a battle of the Arab bragging rights. You know, both groups are tough.
I think we've got the tougher one.
I think we've got the tougher one, but I think we can progress, because if we can get, you know, a win or a positive result or a display in the opening match against the Asian champions on their home soil, then that will really set us up for the rest of the tournament. And I do think we'll finish top 2, and I'll tell you why. Because United Emirat, right, if we're coming up against them after, you know, getting beat in the semi-finals on penalties last year, you know, in the same competition, then we can just use that fixture as a motivation to, you know, get revenge. So I do think that we will finish top 2, particularly watching us recently in the performances. If we can go in with that sort of same attitude, then I don't know about topping the group, because Qatar are strong and they're getting better and better, but I think we can finish top 2 and qualify to the
We're not going to have some key players, so Ali Adnan's not going to be there, Humam's not going to be there, Rebin's not going to be there. Obviously any player that's outside of the Arab world or playing outside the Arab world, they're not going to feature. Are we able to replicate the performances without them? And I mean, I see us beating Yemen. UAE is a bit of a tricky one, but I could see us winning that. Qatar is a very difficult one. I can't see us getting anything in that game, especially it's the opener. It's the big one for them before the World Cup, and they're going to want to make a mark, especially with the blockade there and with Saudi and UAE there as well. So I think they're going to want to make an example in that first fixture, and we're probably going to be on the back of, I reckon, quite a bad loss, maybe 2-3 now.
You mentioned there the politics that's going on in that region. We felt the benefits, let's say, of the political motivation against Iran, but there's so much tension between Saudi, Emirat and Qatar.
So if I'm not mistaken, in the Asian Cup, it was when Qatar played the UAE that the Emiratis started throwing their ni'al on the pitch, right? Their sandals.
That's right. Yeah. And they won the Asian Cup in the Emirat after everything that happened. So it plays a massive part, and we might, we still need to just be hungry for the bragging rights to prove that we're the best team in the Kharij and the Gulf. But at the same time, we will find it difficult because there's going to be a lot of heat between a few of the other fixtures.
My thoughts have changed on the whole tournament. If I'm going to be completely honest, I think it would have been better off for us for Katanec to completely pick a whole different new squad with new players, or even we should have taken our Olympic team. They need a few games, and the reason I mention that is I've got a lot of reasons, or a lot of ideas as to why I would say that. One of them being is that we need to come to a realisation that if we are going to build a solid national team, that we need to give these players some of a break. So you look at stuff like Hadi as an example, and some of the other players that play, I believe, at Sharta. So they went from, I think they were in Morocco at the time, I think, before they went to Jordan. So they went to Jordan, now they're in Qatar playing again. And then they're going to go back to Iraq and play in the Iraqi league. So some of the stress and overload that's going to be on these players is quite significant.
Yeah.
So if we are going to look at the future, I think we need to really look at how we play within these tournaments. I know that if we said to some of these national teams within the Gulf region or the Arabian Gulf region, if we turned around and said to them, we're going to be representing our Olympic team, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be happy with that. But I think that maybe Katanec should have selected, a second team or something along that sort, because there's a lot of players there that's going to be competing. And then again, that's going to possibly bring results. If you can imagine Ahmed Ibrahim getting injured, or you can imagine some of the other players, Rabin's not joining in that tournament, but other players within the national team that might get injured, and that's a burden. If you guys know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a very valid point, actually. I never thought of it like that. And to be fair, these are the sort of thing, this is the structure that will probably need changed over the next few years internationally, from the grassroots level all the way up, for us to succeed. If we look at these tournaments and think, okay, yeah, we want to win, but we can do it the way Arsenal or other Premier League teams field their sides in the Europa League, for example. They still bring out great results, but that's because they're trying hungry young players that have got a point to prove.
So they have. There's been mentioning.
I don't see a problem being in that.
There's been some mention of, for example, Louay El Ani being called up. There's been talks of that young chap Amir as well, who scored 2 goals the other day against South Korea. There are talks of bringing in these young expats. Whether they'll get a chance or not, it's a different issue. And I know there's paperwork, things that need to be sorted out. So just going back to the Gulf Cup, right? Iraq, Qatar. We both agree, or all three of us agreeing that they're going to be the 2 teams that make it through.
I think so. Yeah, I would go with that.
Yeah.
What about Group B then? You have Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia. Who's going through there?
I think Bahrain and Saudi. Yeah, Saudi has been performing quite well. I think they've their last couple of games they've been playing pretty well. Strong national team. I don't see why they wouldn't come out of that group. And also Bahrain's been quite strong as well.
Yeah, I think on paper I would agree. They've both been playing well recently. Saudi as a result at Uzbekistan. Did they not score a last minute winner?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they'll be flying at the minute, and Bahrain are surprising us all in Group C. So yeah,
I'm going to be slightly different to you guys. I'm going to say the teams that qualify will be Iraq, Qatar, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. And I think we'll play Saudi in the semi-final and probably lose.
You think Oman? Yeah.
I think Oman have looked really, really good in their games. I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit edgy here, but I think Oman might actually qualify. So, ladies and gents, I promised you a special guest, and I've brought you the star of the show, Rebin Sulaka. Welcome to the podcast. I'm absolutely honoured to have you here. I just want to start by saying, or asking, how was your flight back home from the... Where were we? It was in Dubai, no? In Jordan, sorry.
Jordan. It was okay. Long flight, but I am home now, so yeah, it's okay.
What did you make of the two performances against Bahrain and Iran?
I think it's good. We took 4 points out of 6, so it's good performance. We had a solid performance defensively, I think, as a team. Maybe against Bahrain we didn't create so many chances to score, but I think we can be happy with 4 points and top of the group. We have everything in our hands. So yeah, for me personally, it was good. So I have nothing to complain about.
So I think the last 2 games, the fans have been watching and they've been feeling a lot more confident watching the team play, and I think that we've built a lot more trust in the system that we have as a national team. I want to ask you, what's changed since the first game of the group, the 1-1 with Bahrain, up until now in the squad and in the manager and the tactics? What have you seen changed?
I don't think we have changed so much. I think the coach have worked the same way from the first day he come to national team. I think the player understand the tactics and understand the way coach wanna play. So I think it's the player that changed the mindset towards the coach, that they trust the system more and they understand the system he wanna play more. You understand me?
Yeah, of course.
I don't think the coach changed the way. Like I said before, I think it's more that we as a player understand the system and respect the system more.
This is a bit of a personal question. You don't have to answer if you feel uncomfortable doing so. How did it feel for you being the only expat in the squad this time? Normally there's about 4 expats. This time it was only you. Did you find it strange, or was it just another day for you?
I would find it strange if it was my first or second time. If you know what I mean. If I were there in the beginning, because I didn't speak so much Arabic in the beginning, and I didn't know the guys. But I am there, I'm there doing my job. I am there to represent my country and play football and give my best for my country. Then the other aspects I don't care about so much. You know what I mean? If I'm alone or so, I don't. For me, it's just go down 10 days, be professional, give everything I have, and then if I play, if I'm on the bench or if I'm on the stands, I'm there, to serve my country. So for me, it wasn't. It was strange, of course, because they are the closest, friends I have in the team, of course. But yeah, I have no problems with the guys there now. I can hang out with them. I was in the room with Ali now, and he speaks really good English because he plays in MLS.
Yeah.
So yeah, to know them better. So this trip, I know I had chance to know the guys better.
Yeah, because you're forced to interact with them and get to know them a little bit better.
Not forced. I want to be interactive.
Yeah, sorry, wrong choice.
I don't want to say that I'm forced now.
Yeah.
But of course, I am more with the other guys now because Ahmed is not there, Justin is not there, Usama is not there. Of course, you are with the guy who you share the room with. I always share with the room with Ahmed, Justin, or Usama. Now I share the room with Ali, and we had to talk and we know each other better. So.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 3 big games coming up, Rebin. Hong Kong is in March, and then we have We have Cambodia at home, and then we go to Iran away again. How do you see these next few games playing out?
Like I said, we have everything in our hands. If we want to do something good out of this group, we have to keep winning, keep not losing. Like we haven't lost, and Iran and Iran have 2 losses, and Bahrain have not lost yet, right?
No, they haven't lost. They've beaten Iran, they beat Cambodia, and they drew with Hong Kong, and they drew with us twice.
So for us, it's very important that we don't lose. I see it's a difficult game against Hong Kong away because it's a long trip for everyone. It's gonna be difficult to play there, but we have we have everything in our hands. We have big chances to go as first, and eventually take the group. For me, I think, like I said before, I feel that we are like a solid team now. We trust each other defensively, and then we can work from there. If you're good defensively as a team, then you can develop the attack playing football. So from here we can just develop and even be better.
Okay, so you'd say that defense right now is kind of the strongest aspect of the team, right?
This is what I felt against Iran and Bahrain. You know, they if you see these 2 games, the teams we play against didn't create so many chances, right? They didn't have so many shots on the goal. Like the goalies didn't have to do so much. So defensively, as a team, defense begins from Mimi, right?
Yeah.
It's not from the back line so defensively from Mimi, everyone knows their jobs. Everyone knows what to do. So for me, I'm very comfortable. So if you have these rocks, you can what you say, you can rely on. So you can just be better as a team. So now we have to develop our offense game and create more chances to score. Then we can be really good. You know what I mean? We have a lot of talents in the group. We have young players who want to come up and I think we have good balance now in the team. You know.
So okay, I completely agree with you. I think we're onto something special, but I think we just need to kind of develop our attack to beat the teams when they're sat deep, and we need to break down their defense. I just want to quickly ask you, we've got the Gulf Cup starting next week. How do you see that happening for Iraq? We have Qatar, UAE and Yemen in our group.
For me, you have to see what the goal is with the national team. Do you want to win, or do you want to develop the group? Do you want to develop your play, your game, as a team? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't national teams is not the same as the club. The club you work with the players every day. You know, national team you work with the player 10 days, and you have to wait 1.5 months, 2 months maybe. Then you work with the player again. So we have to set a goal for the group. So the people have to be patient. Even if we don't do good now in Gulf Cup, you have to think that this is a step that develop our national team to go to our big goal, you know. And our big goal is to go to World Cup, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I don't care so much how we do in Gulf Cup, because I want to see that we develop as a group, as a team. So if I see that, I'm gonna be proud, you know. But of course, I know the fans, I know Iraqi people and what's happening in Iraq now. Of course, if we go far in the competition and win the competition, it's gonna be one of the best things that happened this year in Iraq, right? So I want to see people be happy, and I want to see our national team develops. So this is my goal, and hopefully the coach and everybody see it the same at this competition.
Well, unfortunately, you are not going to be there, but you were, for me at least, one of probably the best player across the 2 games. Massive performance. A big thank you from me and all the fans for leading that back line and getting us that enormous victory over Iran. Fans will never forget that, Rebin. Thank you very much for that victory. Thank you very much for being on this podcast. And all the best, man.
Thank you very much, and I want to say that I will never forget the win against Iran. That was the sickest thing I have ever been with in my life. Like, I mean, everybody was crying, in the arena after the last signal of the referee. I was shocked, So I was still in shock 2 days after of the feelings and then what's happened. So I'm very proud to be part of this. So yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for all the support.
Absolutely, man. You guys completely deserve it, and well done once more, brother. Take care, yeah?
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Wow. So that was amazing to hear from the man himself, but also a big thank you to my 2 guests today. I think it's been an amazing discussion, and I think for now we just need to wait and see how Iraq approach the Gulf Cup, how we do. Fingers crossed we actually we can win it. But for me and Rebin, it's about progress now. So a big thank you for for having these 2 guests on my show, friends of the show, friends of IraqFootball.me. Guys, where can the fans find you? How can they contact you?
Well, they can find me on Twitter or Instagram. So it's redder.tay. That's TAAY. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me through any of my social media platforms. I'm happy to speak to anyone.
Laith, what about you?
Hassan, yeah, you can find me on... actually, you can find our page, Soccer Iraq, most importantly, on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. On Twitter, we've nearly hit 20,000 followers, so if you can be the 20,000 follower, that would be very much appreciated, and thank you for all the support and always, helping promote our page. It's much appreciated. And I want to also give a shout out to Saif, who started Soccer Iraq alongside me 5 years ago now. So he's another really hard worker who shares the same vision as us all, which is to bring news and media to the public in English. So, alhamdulillah, we have succeeded in doing that, and we hope that we keep growing, but more importantly, we hope that the fans just enjoy the content that we produce and feel like they are benefited from it all. So thank you, and it's been a pleasure being on today.
Pleasure's mine. Guys, just to add to that, find their website on socceriraq.net, as well as their social media pages. All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening, guys. If you want to contact me on Twitter, Iraq_football_. You want to find me on Facebook, IraqFootball.me. My website is www.iraqfootball.me for the Middle East. And Instagram at Hassanen, HASSANANE. Thank you for listening, guys. Thank you for joining me. All the best. Yalla ya Iraq.